Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Alex Lightman. I found out about him and his work on Facebook. I'm on Facebook every day like the rest of us. And I want to tell you a little bit about him. He has a very, very interesting background. First of all, he is the Chief Technology Officer and Director of the Fortune Nest Corporation. They do project sourcing, evaluation, funding, business planning, and execution. And he is the point man for the Bahrain Silicon Valley and other projects bringing technology to and from California, China, and the Gulf Cooperation Council countries. He has a background in international government at the J.F. Kennedy School, Harvard University. He also has a background at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And he is the author of 2 books, Reconciliation, 78 Reasons to End the U.S. Embargo of Cuba, and Brave New Unwired World. Alex Lightman is the author of the first book in 4G wireless. He is the former Director of Technology and Innovation for the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. And he established the Sea Shepherd Ideas and Innovation Center, which garnered over 1,000 fans within 48 hours. And in its first month generated hundreds of pages of ideas for upgrading Sea Shepherd's 3 ships into platforms for innovation. He also received the first Economist Reader Award for the innovation most likely to radically impact the world over the next decade, 2010 to 2020, at the London Science Museum. The award was on behalf of his role in the innovation of 4G networks and was the result of a worldwide vote of people in 200 countries over a 5-month period, mediated by a panel of 32 judges assembled by the Economist. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Alex Lightman to It's Rainmaking Time. Good morning.
Morning.
Since my interest was first spawned by your interest in Bahrain and you being the point person for the Bahrain Silicon Valley, I want to talk about why Bahrain is not more known around the world. And what does Bahrain have besides gold and pearls and oil?
It's well known in the Middle East because it's the financial center. It is the fastest growing financial center in the world. It's the fastest growing economy. It's the fastest growing financial center, and it's the freest economy in the Middle East. It's also next door across what will soon be a causeway that will take 40 minutes, the longest causeway in the world from Qatar, which is the fastest growing economy in the world. So these are almost like city-states. Bahrain has about 1.1 million people. Qatar has about 1.8 million people. But they fit what my partner in Fortune Nest says is a new paradigm, that there are no more big countries or small countries. There are only countries with big ideas and countries with small ideas. Qatar shocked the United States by winning the 2022 FIFA World Cup by having big ideas. And Bahrain has over 400 international banks, all within a 3-mile radius. I mean, you can literally take a taxi between any 2 of them within 5 minutes because there's just not that many people. And if you look at Bahrain, it looks like a city of the future. I mean, there's just a really cool futuristic buildings there, but it's not this wild, out of control, growth based on hype like Dubai has been in the last decade. It's not a Manhattan size. It's more like, let's say maybe a third of the size of downtown or midtown in Manhattan.
Interesting. So many people felt that Dubai was really the place to be, but Bahrain, I guess, has been a sleeper, just developing.
Sure, but also banks don't hype. Banking centers and financial centers don't really need to hype themselves. The people who they want to attract or who want to do business there know. And part of the reason was because for this is that Lebanon used to be a center of stability, and Lebanon has had its civil wars. That was part of it. But another part is that the very first place in the Persian Gulf, which I like to call the Arabian Gulf because there's no such country as Persia anymore, it was before any other place besides Iran and Iraq. But I mean, of the countries that are below Iran and Iraq, it was the first place where oil was discovered. And there's also been a military alliance between the Al Khalifa family and the United States for 60 years. So if you're in Bahrain, you notice, okay, this is an island. It's about 10 miles by 30 miles. And but you also notice these massive Navy ships because it's the center for the Arabian Gulf fleet for the Navy. By the way, the U.S. government likes to call it the Arabian Gulf also. And you see that there's a place next to all the ships called the American Valley, which that's what the locals call it, but the British call it Cholesterol Alley because it's filled with American fast food places. And you can be there in an evening and you see people cruising by. It kind of reminds me of Sunset Strip in Hollywood. And you see women in miniskirts with platform shoes, and you see guys with muscle shirts. And you could be somewhere in a very hot place in the United States with palm trees because it just doesn't seem like the Middle East. Then you also have women wearing their coverings from Saudi Arabia, which is connected by a causeway. So Bahrain is, to me, the place that is the future. It's a place where people who are very liberal and people who are very conservative get along and are side by side and are at peace with each other.
Now, the official language is Arabic, though. How much of the Bahrainians speak English?
My experience is all of the ones that I've met speak English. I'm a little bit surprised. I guess I'm even surprised to hear that the official language is Arabic because so many people that I meet with speak English. Certainly all the people in government who deal with projects speak English.
It's said that the government is a constitutional monarchy.
Yes.
How does that influence business and how business is done and the structures of business in this location?
I think that Americans are going to have to look at the fact that most of the world doesn't work the way that America supposedly works. In fact, America doesn't work the way America is supposed to work. Families have a very, very, very strong influence on American government as well. However, they don't automatically stay in charge. But in virtually all the countries of the Middle East, it's not, you don't replace the head of state every 4 years. And the key thing is that if you look at where the money is in the sovereign wealth funds. So the United States, because we consume something like a third of the world's gasoline, we are sending lots and lots and lots of money, hundreds of billions a year, over to, at least the West as a whole sends hundreds of billions a year to the Middle East. And a lot of that money goes to the Gulf Cooperation Council countries. There are 6 of them. Saudi Arabia is the biggest one, and then it's Kuwait, Oman, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain. And you have within those countries about 40 million people. But here's the big thing. They have 455 billion barrels of oil, just under half of all the proven reserves of oil in the world, and they have something on the order of 1/4 of all the world's natural gas. So imagine if California had half the world's oil and 1/4 of the world's natural gas, what the possibilities of California would be. What makes California amazing, though, is technology. But part of what makes California amazing with technology is venture capital. So my thought is, these families are managing their money through sovereign wealth funds. They have about $8 trillion. The lowest number I've heard is $6 trillion, but the projections are for $15 trillion by 2015.
Wow.
And Bahrain is their banking center, and I believe even though China gets in the news because of all of its surplus, I believe that China is a giant bubble. And I think that the people will demand that China spend its money on health care and food subsidies because food prices have doubled. So to make a long story economically short, I believe that when the dust clears in 2015, that the only place where there'll be big piles of money for investment in technology will be the GCC, Singapore, and that's it. And the rest of the world will be hounding them for money.
Wow.
So what does it have to do with the monarchy? Well, the monarchy is a fact of life. And if you only want to deal with democracies, then you probably don't want to do business in the Middle East.
How did you become attracted to doing business in Bahrain?
I have been giving speeches about how to make the world a better place economically and through technology and in particular through Internet Protocol version 6 and what I call real 4G, not the fake 4G like AT&T flipping the switch to turn on its 4G network in its marketing department and nowhere else. And that caught the eye of a number of governments. So I've been invited by over 40 different governments to go and speak in their country. And I was invited to be one of the keynote speakers at the Bahrain World Economic Summit, where the sovereign wealth funds come and talk with each other.